It strikes you sometimes, doesn't it? You're scrolling through your watch lists, Netflix, whatever, and it's just title after familiar title.
Yeah, it really does feel like we're swimming in a sea of the already known.
And that's exactly why we wanted to take a deep dive today. We're looking into this whole phenomenon of movie and TV reboots and remakes.
Right, and we've gathered quite a range of sources for this, industry reports, critical articles, even what fans are saying online. It gives a pretty full picture, I think.
Absolutely. We've got stuff from Screen Rant, Forbes, Deloitte, academic papers, fan forums like Reddit, the works.
Mm-hmm.
So our mission today is really to get under the hood.
Mm.
Why are there so many? Are they actually offering something new, or are they just, well, echoes?
Good question. Where should we start?
Okay, let's maybe start with the basics. When we say reboot and remake, what's the actual difference we're talking about? Because people use them interchangeably sometimes.
That's a really good place to start. So a remake, essentially, is retelling a story that's already been told on screen.
Like Gus Van Sant's Psycho.
Exactly. Or, Ocean's 11. Taking the original idea, maybe updating it, different cast, modern setting, but the core story's recognizable. A reboot, though, that's more like hitting reset. You might keep the characters, the basic world, but you start the story over. Often ignores the previous movies or shows. Think like the Daniel Craig Bond films, starting with Casino Royale.
Right, wiping the slate clean, sort of.
Pretty much. And then you've got related things too, like revivals. That's when the original cast comes back after
Like
years.
Will and Grace or the X-Files revival.
Exactly. That hits a different kind of nostalgia. Then, of course, you have your standard sequels, prequels, spin-offs. It's a whole universe of reusing ideas.
It really is an ecosystem, isn't it?
Yeah.
Built around this thing called IP, intellectual property, those characters, stories, worlds the studios own.
Mm.
So let's talk money, because let's be honest, the sheer volume suggests this is driven by something pretty big financially.
Oh, undeniably. The money side is, well, it's huge. As a lot of our sources point out, nostalgia is just an incredibly potent marketing tool.
It connects instantly.
Precisely. You already have an audience that cares about these characters, these stories. That pre-existing recognition, it cuts down the risk massively compared to launching something totally new.
So it's about safety, less risky bets.
Largely, yes. It's risk mitigation in a business where launching new things is incredibly expensive and uncertain.
Makes sense, like starting with a built-in fan base almost.
Exactly that. Look at the 2019 Lion King. Okay, technically animation to live action, but essentially a remake. Built on beloved IP, what did it make?
Over $1 billion, wasn't it? Something crazy.
Over $1.4 billion
Yeah.
globally. Yeah, you don't ignore numbers like that if you're a studio executive.
Wow. Okay.
And some reports we looked at, like from Deloitte, they point out how the DVD market basically collapsed, right? And movies and theaters, they need to be massive events now. So studios lean towards what they think are safer bets. Familiar IP feels safer.
And I bet streaming plays a big role, too. They need content constantly.
Absolutely. Non-stop competition for subscribers. Reboots and remakes give them instantly recognizable stuff for their library.
Attracts fans of the original.
Right. And, making high-quality original shows and movies costs a fortune. It keeps going up. So using existing IP, it can seem like a more cost-effective way to fill the pipeline with something likely to get clicks.
So it's like a perfect storm pushing this trend. But, okay, just because it makes financial sense doesn't mean it's actually good.
Not at all. That's the crucial part.
Let's look at some times when it did work. When revisiting these stories actually resulted in something great, maybe even better.
Definitely. There are some standout examples where reboots or remakes are really highly regarded. Battlestar Galactica, the 2004 version, is maybe the classic example.
Oh, yeah. Huge critical success. Way beyond the original.
Totally. It took the basic premise but made it dark, complex, relevant. It showed a reboot could actually surpass the original by, having something new to say.
That's a high bar. What else stands out?
Well, Scorsese's The Departed, a remake of the Hong Kong film Infernal Affairs.
Right. Fantastic film. Won Best Picture.
It did. And while Infernal Affairs is brilliant, The Departed really resonated with Western audiences, told that story in a Boston context. Then there's Soderbergh's Ocean's 11.
The Rat Pack original is fun, but the remake is just so stylish.
Exactly. Took the concept, injected modern cool, that amazing cast. It just worked.
Okay, those are great crime thriller examples. Any others?
How about the Coen brothers' True Grit? Many feel it's better, maybe more faithful to the book than the John Wayne version.
That's a good one.
Even horror. Cronenberg's The Fly from '86, it's way more visceral, more Cronenberg-y than the '58 original. Most people see it as superior.
Definitely more memorable body horror.
And sometimes they just have legs. Look at the Hawaii Five-er reboot. Ran for 10 seasons.
Wow, 10 years. That's real staying power.
Yeah, so it can be done successfully.
It's not just movies, right? TV's full of this too.
Oh, absolutely.
Oh,
Cobra Kai. What success story that's been.
yeah, taking the Karate Kid and finding that perfect blend of nostalgia and new stories.
Exactly. Appeals to old fans, brings in new ones. It's clever. Even something simpler like the '98 Parent Trap remake is really beloved.
My kids love that one.
And sometimes just changing the tone works wonders. Like Casino Royale. The '67 version was basically a spoof. The 2006 one, gritty, serious Bond, totally revitalized the franchise.
That's a fascinating point, how changing genre or tone can make it feel fresh.
It really can.
I have to bring up Mad Max. Fury Road here too.
Yeah.
Kind of a sequel, kind of a reboot.
Yeah.
Whatever it was, it felt incredibly fresh and relevant.
A perfect example. Took that world and just exploded it onto the screen in a modern way. And sometimes it's smaller things, like Judi Dench's M in Bond.
Oh, brilliant casting. That gender swap really worked.
Didn't it? Brought a whole new dynamic. Or look at Godzilla in 2014 that kicked off the whole monsterverse. And the 2009 Star Trek managed that tricky thing of pleasing old fans while making it accessible for newcomers.
Okay, so yeah, lots of evidence that it can lead to creative success, but we all know it doesn't always go that way, right?
Oh, definitely not. The road is littered with less successful attempts. Let's put it mildly.
Right. For every Battlestar Galactica, there are plenty that just miss the mark completely.
Yep. The 1998 Psycho remake often comes up. Gus Van Sant tried that shot-for-shot thing.
Which sounds interesting on paper, but
But it just lacked the tension, the spark of Hitchcock's original. Critics mostly panned it. Felt like an exercise, not a movie.
okay, what are some other infamous ones?
Well, Nick Cage in the Wicker Man remake.
Oh boy, not the bees.
Exactly. Became famous for all the wrong reasons, mostly unintentional comedy. The Haunting from '99 made money, but critics hated the Wheat script, the CGI.
Right, CGI monsters instead of psychological horror.
Yeah. The Knight Rider reboot series didn't last long. Even that punked revival on Quibi. Well, Quibi itself didn't last long.
Ah, true enough. Streaming revivals aren't always a slam dunk either.
Not at all. And the list keeps going. Rob Zombie's Halloween remakes were divisive. The Straw Dogs remake, the Manchurian Candidate remake from 2004, Flatliners in 2017, all got pretty heavily criticized.
And more recently.
While the Night Court reboot, a lot of people feel it just doesn't have the magic of the original ensemble. The Quantum Leap reboot has its fans, for sure, but many original fans felt disappointed. Same with attempts at Dallas, Dynasty, Magnum P.I. They often struggle to recapture that original lightning in a bottle.
And sometimes it's more serious issues, right?
Yep.
Like the backlash against the last Airbender live-action movie.
Oh, absolutely. The whitewashing controversy there was huge and frankly damaging. It highlighted how remakes can really stumble on cultural sensitivity and representation.
So looking at all these failures, what are the common threads? Why do they so often miss?
Well, a big one seems to be when it feels like just a cash grab, exploiting the name recognition without any real creative reason to exist.
Lacking a vision beyond the IP.
Exactly. And it's just hard to improve on something people already love, right? If it ain't broke.
Don't remake it.
Well, maybe, or at least have a really good reason why you're remaking it. There's also the danger of alienating the original fans if you change theirs too much or change the wrong things.
Tampering with beloved memories.
Precisely. You're messing with people's childhood sometimes. And maybe there's a bit of negativity bias too. The bad ones get talked about more.
Ah, probably true.
But if it's too similar, people ask, why bother? If it's too different, it needs to justify those changes and be good on its own terms. It's a tough balance.
That established brand recognition is a double-edged sword then.
It really is. It gets people interested, but it also sets high expectations.
Let's shift gears a bit. What about the wider cultural impact? These aren't made in a vacuum.
Yeah, definitely not. Remakes can tell us a lot about changing cultural values, sometimes unintentionally. You mentioned the Americanization thing, taking a foreign film and remaking it for the U.S. market. Sometimes that works. Sometimes it loses something in translation, dilutes the original context.
Like sanding off the edges.
Kind of. And the whole conversation around representation and diversity is crucial here. We talked about whitewashing, which is a major pitfall.
Yeah.
But on the flip side, Some remakes do try to be more inclusive, maybe update outdated or insensitive elements from the original. Think about some changes in the live-action Aladdin, for instance, trying to address past criticisms.
So it's a chance to potentially correct past wrongs or at least update things.
It can be. Again, it's a tricky balance. Some remakes, like Cobra Kai, actually get praised for how they handle modern social issues within the framework of the original story. They evolve the narrative.
That makes sense. It's not just about the plot, but the themes too.
Exactly.
And often these reboots and remakes are adapting things from books, right?
Yeah.
That adds another layer of complexity.
Oh, absolutely. Adapting a novel to film. They're just different beasts, aren't they?
Totally different mediums.
Right. A novel can get inside characters' heads, spend pages on description. Film has to show, not just tell. So adaptations almost always involve changes, cutting subplots, changing pacing, visualizing things differently.
So the idea of a faithful adaptation is kind of slippery.
Very slippery. How close a remake or adaptation is to the source varies wildly. Some try to stick close, others use the book as more of a launching pad. Like the movie Annihilation was quite different from the book.
Right.
And you can have multiple adaptations of the same book that feel completely different. Look at the different versions of Dune. Vastly different interpretations of the same text.
Which loops back to the audience, I guess. And that powerful force we mentioned, nostalgia.
It's absolutely central, isn't it? The psychology is fascinating. People revisit things because it triggers good memories, feelings of comfort, connection to their past. It feels safe and familiar.
Comfort food entertainment.
Kind of, yeah. And marketers know this inside out. Nostalgia marketing is huge. They deliberately tap into those feelings with reboots, remakes, retro designs. They know different generations have different nostalgia triggers.
But is all this looking back, is it maybe stifling new ideas? That's a debate you hear a lot.
It's a huge debate. Some definitely argue, yes, that studios are so focused on mining the past because it feels financially safer, that they're less willing to gamble on totally original concepts.
Less risk, but maybe less reward creatively.
That's the argument, that it leads to a more homogenous media landscape. But the counter-argument is that original stuff is still getting made, especially in independent film, maybe on certain streaming platforms too. It hasn't vanished entirely.
It's not all remakes.
No, not at all. But the focus on IP is definitely very, very strong right now.
Okay, one last angle maybe.
Yeah.
Character arcs. When you revisit a character, how does their journey change, or does it stay the same?
That's interesting. Character arcs. How a character changes or stays true to themselves are key. A reboot or remake might look at a classic character through a modern lens. Take Simba in The Lion King. He grows up, accepts responsibility, that's a positive change arc. But he also embodies the unchanging circle of life idea.
Right.
A remake might emphasize one aspect over the other, or add new nuances based on today's understanding of, say, trauma or leadership, or whatever themes they want to explore.
So even the familiar characters can be re-examined.
Potentially, yes, if it's done thoughtfully.
Okay, so bringing this all together, it feels like reboots and remakes are this really complex mix, doesn't it? Driven hard by money and nostalgia.
Definitely the big drivers.
They can be creatively brilliant, give us fresh takes, update things that needed updating.
Like Battlestar or Mad Max,
Yeah.
Fury Road.
But they also fail a lot. Maybe because they lack originality or just misunderstand what made the first one work.
Yeah, it happens frequently. And maybe at the end of the day, whether you think a reboot is good or bad is pretty subjective. Depends what you're looking for, right?
True. Depends on your connection to the original, your expectations.
Exactly.
So maybe the final question for you listening is this. In this landscape where reboots and remakes are everywhere, what actually makes a new version worthwhile? What should creators really focus on when they decide to tackle these beloved stories again?
That's the million-dollar question, isn't it? Or maybe $1 billion these days.
Probably.
Yeah.
Definitely something to think about. And, reflect on your own experiences. Which ones worked for you? Which ones really didn't?
Yeah, be interesting to hear what people think.
Well, thanks for digging into this with us today.
My pleasure. It was fascinating.